Our ultimate purpose is to help create a generation of leaders with a mindset that's focused on developing and supporting their teams, developing an instinctive leadership style that understands the best way to serve the needs of the organization is to serve and develop the people that the organization is depending on. Understanding the different ways that people communicate, behave, and actually process information is one of the key skills of a good leader. So, we've prepared a little scenario to help us illustrate the point that we want to make. Now, here goes. We've titled this scenario, "Uh-oh, what went wrong?" So, Mary is our CEO, and she's been tasked with preparing a presentation for her board of directors on the operations and budget plans for the new fiscal year. She's excited about the opportunity, and she quickly develops an agenda and a content outline. With a short deadline looming, she calls a meeting of her team that consists of David, Susan, Irene, and Carl. Now, during the meeting, Mary lays out her planned agenda, going into great detail item by item while instructing the team to hold questions until the end. However, each team member is responding differently. David appears to be bored and impatient. Susan is diligently taking notes, trying to capture every word that Mary says. Irene is also distracted. She's occasionally glancing at her phone and seems to be making notes that are unrelated to the presentation. And Carl's starting to look apprehensive, thinking about the workload that he has ahead of him. When she finishes the presentation, Mary opens the floor for questions, but David is prepared to leave. He feels like everything that needs to be said has been said. And Irene starts immediately suggesting new agenda items and alternatives for the presentation. Susan starts documenting all of the questions that are being asked, making sure that she doesn't miss anything. And Carl is at the point where he just wants some water and an aspirin because he's starting to get a headache thinking about the work that he has ahead of him. So Mary leaves the meeting somewhat disappointed with the team's lack of engagement. And I'll ask our audience, have you ever had that experience, either being in Mary's position or as someone sitting around the table? I hate to think about how many meetings I've messed up, especially when I was early in my career, but I hope I've learned from it. So go ahead and tell us in the chat whether you've experienced those kind of meetings or not. So we'll ask the question, what could have been done differently? Now, first, we have to acknowledge that people are different. Just as they come in with different experiences, backgrounds, come from different cultures and have different skill sets, they also have different communication and behavior styles and ways of thinking. We need to know how to speak to different people in the different ways that will resonate with them best. So we've put together 4 tips for you on enhancing your communications with 4 different types of thinkers. The 4 tips are basically understanding the different behavior styles, knowing what people's fears and value systems are. Number 2 is considering how the other person likes to receive information, understanding their communication style and what they need from a conversation. Tip number 3 is learning what motivates people. Learning how to leverage the things that really drive a person's performance. And tip number 4, we call respectful influence. And that's when you're putting all these tips together to get buy-in because you've actually met the needs. So tip number 2 is communicating effectively with these different styles. So this is about using the language that resonates with somebody and essentially speaking the same language. In some ways, it's sort of like as an example, you get two sports fans talking to each other, or maybe, as two art lovers. They can have productive conversations with each other. But just imagine if you take a hardcore sports fan and a hardcore art lover and put them together to have a conversation, they may have a little bit more difficulty finding common ground. Now, when we look at the different styles, with the dominant style, we want to be direct and concise. There's no small talk necessary here. It's just the facts. You want to focus on getting the results you want in the most efficient manner. And you want to be open to their tendency to be assertive and not get turned off by that. It's just a sign of their enthusiasm for the task. So as an example, let's assume that you're going to ask someone to prepare a communications plan and related budget requirements for an International Women's Day awareness campaign that's coming up. With the dominant style, the message might look like this. Develop a strategic communications plan outlining key objectives, target audience analysis, messaging framework, and implementation timeline for our International Women's Day awareness campaign. Additionally, provide a detailed budget proposal highlighting cost-effective strategies to maximize impact and reach. Very clear, very business-like, and just the important parts. Now, if you're giving that message to an influencer type, you want to take a little bit more of a social approach. You want to be enthusiastic and supportive. Stress the importance of the small details that are important to you so that they understand the need, because they may not want to pay too much attention to the little details. You want to be receptive to a more social discussion, and this is where small talk can really benefit you. So, using that same example, communicating with an I style would look a little bit different. The message is still intact, but you can see some of the words that are being used are meant to connect with what the influencers enjoy. Create an engaging and impactful communications, showcasing the power and importance of celebrating women globally. Using innovative and creative ideas to generate excitement. Focusing on opportunities for collaboration and partnerships, and enhancing visibility and outreach. Those are the things that will really get the influencer going. With the steadiness style, on the other hand, you want to focus on the group as well as them as an individual. You want to adopt a patient and understanding tone and really practice your active listening with these people. Reassure them about the structure and clarify their role in the group project. And then make them aware of the other roles in the group so that they can understand the full group's involvement in the scope of the job. The same message given to the steadiness type is different again. The essence is still there, but we're using different words that will resonate with them. Comprehensive communications plan, emphasizing the importance of meaningful connections, fostering inclusivity, prioritizing clear and consistent messaging, promoting engagement, detailed and organized approach, and careful consideration of resources and potential contingencies. So it's the same message, but again, it's using the words that trigger their thought process. And then moving on to the conscientiousness style, here you want to prepare to go deep on detail, or you want to provide all the detail that they will need to understand the project. You want to approach the discussion in a logical and objective way, and you want to be prepared to provide detailed answers to the many questions that you're going to receive. So once again, in the example, the message stays the same in essence, but it's written to appeal what's important to the conscientiousness group. Meticulously detailed communication plan with objectives and target demographics, strategies and implementation tactics, a thorough budget proposal with precise breakdowns of expenses. It's getting to their tendency to love data and accuracy and preciseness. Those sorts of things are what resonates with the conscientiousness group. So let's take a closer look at the changes that we made in each of the communication pieces. When we line up the four messages beside each other, we can see how we're applying our knowledge of what resonates with each type. The D is straightforward, just the facts. It's actually the shortest message of the four. We keep it at a high level so that they have the autonomy to respond as they wish. The I message gets more exciting. It aims to get their creative juices flowing and challenges them to create impact. The S message is more grounded. It's comprehensive and it demands clarity and inclusiveness, and it calls for serious thought. Where the message to the C's is quite clear about its detailed requirements and the need to address the many elements of a complete plan. So, tip number 2 is really about learning how to capture and keep someone's attention in order to have a productive conversation.